You're watching Camnet News. Thank you so much for choosing us. My name is Sharon Kalimbola. The top stories on our desk this evening: opposition political parties leaders arrested for protesting against the concessional contract on the LUSAKA NDOLA dual carriageway. President Hakainde Hichilema warns youths against illegal mining. Vandalized water kiosk in KANYAMA Ward 13 widens the water challenge gap for over 100 families. In international news, 14 dead, 54 rescued off Tunisia's east coast in migrant boat sinking. And in sports news, first ever Zambian Open International Women's Chess Championship kickstart in Lusaka.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Now the news in detail. Some residents of Lusaka's Kamwala South area have commended the action taken by the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, in collaboration with the Zambian National Service to drain the water from the flooded areas. A check by Camnet TV 2 weeks later, after the activity of pumping water began, revealed significant improvement, with some residents spoken to hoping that the water will soon be drained.
In a bid to help flood victims in areas that were most hit by seasonal floods, such as Kamwala South, the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU and other corresponding partners embarked on a water pump-out exercise which has seen some areas dry up while others remain heavily flooded. Matthews Kalenga, a resident of Kamwala South, says that it has been over 2 weeks since the DMMU started pumping out water with the help of the Zambian National Service team. He says that the action has been of help as water in some parts of Kamwala South has been pumped out, prompting the residents who had moved out of their houses to reoccupy them.
As you can see, this machine came through DMMU from Brigade, so they have been pumping for the past 2 weeks. It's when I think that's when we are seeing water levels going down. Yeah, so what we need as a community is to improve on the roads and also to construct drainage systems. So if you look at the situation this year, Kamwala South has been hit. I think it's the most hit in Lusaka.
He, however, states that the process has taken that long because the ZNS team, whilst trying to create a drainage for water to pass, accidentally hit a Lusaka water pipe. He has since urged the area councillor to work hand in hand with the community to build better drainages in the area, stating that poor construction and lack of drainages in some parts of the area has contributed to the flooding situation.
So what we need, it's drainage systems. Yeah, so the Bombay drainage is just nearby. So there are some drainages that were started. Actually, that's why ZNS tried to do this drainage. Unfortunately, we ended up puncturing the Lusaka water, where this community was shut down. The water supply was shut down for about 3 days, and they came in with ZNS, worked tirelessly to restore the water supply. So what we need for this area, Kamwala South, because some areas we found that water was going even above roof levels. Yeah, so we need this areas to work with the community. We have come up with initiative to work with the area member of parliaments to help, I think, improve construct drain systems.
Beatrice Chabaya, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Unknown people in KANYAMA Ward 13, KANYAMA constituency of Lusaka district, have vandalized a water kiosk servicing more than 100 families in the community and have gone away with 2 water taps. Speaking to Camnet News, concerned community members say this is the 3rd time the incident has happened, and as doors protecting the kiosk are damaged, making it easy for unscrupulous people to vandalize the facility. The affected residents state that this situation is further making the water situation worse, calling on the authority to look at the situation with the urgency it deserves.
Access to water, while a basic human right, is not easily accessible in Zambia, as citizens in many communities have to search far and wide to access clean water for basic activities such as cooking, drinking, and washing. Some communities such as KANYAMA Ward 13 in Lusaka mainly depend on water kiosks for this basic commodity, mainly due to a lack of taps at their homes, with a water kiosk servicing roughly 150 people. Vandalism of such property has, however, been leaving communities stranded. The case of KANYAMA Ward 13, where the residents have been left stranded after 2 water taps from the kiosk in the area were Friday night stolen by unknown people.
Ishi problem yamanzi ichepa bajuba baba chipaibu so manzi tiriberero kuti ngokutika cyane
ka uku ona ndivena ngo batapira apa futi mukaenda kusogora kuti futi kuchikeya chinangu futi mukaenda kuja futi chiriko so bari ino area batapira apa and then bari kuja futi batapira kuja.
Residents here state that the theft of taps at water kiosks is on the rise, adding that the doors at this particular kiosk are damaged, which means it cannot be locked for safety.
So people are suffering, you know, they have to wash, they have to cook, they're making a queue from morning up this time, there's no water. So people are suffering. So we need your help, just come on board to get help in this ward. We are crowded any months they are gone.
Meanwhile, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company Manager for Public Relations and Customer Services Nshamba Mzungu has urged community members to guard public infrastructure jealously, further urging them to report the particular theft and the state of the kiosk so that it can be worked on. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo has condemned the police interference of the protests by the opposition political parties who were demonstrating against the 25-year concession agreement deal to construct the Lusaka-NDOLA dual carriageway in Lusaka Friday afternoon. A group of opposition political parties, among them the Economic Freedom Fighters, the New Heritage Party and the Golden Party of Zambia, convened at Lusaka Civic Center to protest the said agreement, a meeting which was disrupted by the police on the basis that they did not have a police permit. Speaking to Camnet News, the former Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Kampyongo, has described as double standard the harassment of the said political parties, noting that a group advocating for gay rights was not arrested on the spot by police when they marched on the 4th of March 2023. Zambia, through the Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development, on the 28th of February 2023, signed a concession agreement deal worth 577 million United States dollars with Macro Ocean Investment Consortium for the construction of a road which will see the private financing, construction and operation of the road covering a stretch of 327 kilometers. This will see the country paying back the contractor through toll fees for a period of 22 years with the 3 for construction. The Zambia police is yet to issue a statement on this confusion that ensued. Let's look at this.
We are yet to see the Public Order Act, which was already worked on, and I was shocked to see the money that they spent in doing the draft bill, because the same stakeholders who participated in the current draft of the Public Order Act, which they are going to present, are the same stakeholders who participated in the previous revision of the Public Order Act, which I presented up to the second reading in the previous parliament before we left office. So it's really interesting to see. But you see, they are playing double standards. The LGBT protesters were allowed, even shouting insults and being escorted by the police. Today, those that wanted to march against the deal they have, which is stinking corruption, are the ones that are getting arrested. So you should see the double standard and the hypocritical approach they are taking in dealing with some of these matters.
Meanwhile, leader of the opposition in Parliament, Brian Mundubile, has urged the United Party for National Development to request the United States of America's Vice President Kamala Harris not to come to Zambia, as this time will send a bad signal that the latest demonstration demanding for gay rights had the blessing of the Zambian government. Addressing the media Friday afternoon, Mr. Mundubile states that this is a sensitive time where Zambians should try to unite and avoid situations that will further cause tension in the country. United States Vice President Kamala Harris is expected in Zambia late March of 2023 as part of the African tour that would take her to Ghana and Tanzania, scheduled for 25th of March to April 3rd, 2023.
The main opposition party, the Patriotic Front, PF, has continued on its path of offering checks and balances on the United Party for National Development, UPND, and addressed the press Friday afternoon on four main issues, mainly the situation on gay rights in the country, the fight against corruption, farming inputs for the 2023-2024 farming season, and the cost of living in the country. Touching on the topic of gay rights, leader of the opposition in Parliament, Brian Mundubile, feels that the visit by United States of America Vice President Kamala Harris to Zambia, which is scheduled for late March, should not be allowed, as it sends out a bad picture after some youths demonstrated on 4th March 2023 demanding for gay rights. He has also touched on the arrest of Auditor General Dixie Chembe, who was recently arrested on a charge of grand theft reported to have been conducted between 2018, when he worked as Accountant General at the Ministry of Finance, and 2021, when he worked as Auditor General. Mr. Mundubile says the arrest is in bad faith, accusing the current administration of trying to sit on reports that may expose corrupt activities that have been orchestrated while the UPND is in office.
Is to ensure that their corrupt activities are facilitated. Ladies and gentlemen, the UPND government does not want to see a report from the Auditor General's office to do with the cancellation of hunting licenses. They don't want to see a report on FISIP. They don't want to see a report on the $100 million contract under Ministry of Health and many other corrupt transactions like that.
Meanwhile, other members of Parliament have added their voices on issues pertaining to corruption, the cost of living, and the single sourcing of compound D fertilizer for the 2023-2024 farming season. Minister of Agriculture Ruben Piri, during a recent press briefing, stated that compound D fertilizer had been single sourced from the nitrogen chemicals of Zambia NCZ and United Capital Fertilizer, as they are Zambian companies. They have questioned who is benefiting from United Capital Fertilizer.
But what we are seeing is a culture of someone trying to have kickbacks through inflating those prices. And what is so special about United Capital Fertilizer that is less than 2 years old on the market? We cannot say they're tested. Very soon they're telling us that government wants to buy shares from United Capital Fertilizer. Who is going to benefit from that sale? Who is getting the kickback? And using sweet talk like, no, it's positive discrimination. Yes, if it's positive discrimination, my brother has already underscored that is not even a company from Zambia. It was just registered in 2021, and from nowhere it has accrued experience to manufacture and distribute fertilizer. So if that is not corruption, then what is corruption? We know that corruption is in different forms. Corruption can be petty, corruption can be grand, corruption can be institutional.
As I speak to you, there's a minister just recently who collected 100,000 kwacha from our Zambians who sell motor vehicles because they were about to be pushed away. And I came across this information. Now, in the next 2 weeks, I'll be naming this minister. And I mark my words. This minister, if he doesn't come out on his own, in the next 2 weeks, there's a minister who collected 100,000 kwacha from motor vehicle dealers, Zambians here in Lusaka.
The MPs also touched on the high cost of living, as well as the controversial Lusaka-NDOLA dual carriageway. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Vice President Mutale Nalumango has refuted claims, mostly by the opposition political parties, that 3 more trucks carrying sugilite are missing, responding to a question raised by Pambasha Member of Parliament Rona Chitotela, who wanted to find out where the other 3 trucks reported carrying sugilites were. In Parliament Friday, Mrs. Nalumango says this matter should be treated as a rumor it is. The Vice President, however, said investigations into the matter are ongoing and that those with information on the incident should report to respective investigative wings. Meanwhile, the Vice President says a government will not release the names of the 41 people whose bank accounts were last week frozen by the Anti-Corruption Commission, as doing so will jeopardize the investigations. Details in this report.
The Vice President question and answer session is never short of drama, as some members of Parliament use the platform to settle scores rather than ask questions that will bring development to the House. For the second time in a row, Mwembeshi Member of Parliament Jambo Machila caused tension in Parliament after he categorically asked the Vice President when government will arrest those who are involved in the gassing incident, while mentioning that some of those involved were sitting in Parliament.
Your Honor, the Vice President, these people who did these atrocities, just for own information, they have gathered and are here. And they are speaking so much loudly without even remorse. And the people out there are saying, what is the government? 2 years we are letting them sit here.
Honorable member, order.
You cannot be pointing at us like that. You cannot be pointing at us like that. Who do you think you are? Sit down.
Order,
sit down,
member, order.
Anna, you think you're going to have it easy here?
Meanwhile, Pambasha Member of Parliament Ronald Chitotela asked the Vice President where the other reported trucks suspected of carrying sugilite are and why the government has not been talking about them. In her response, the Vice President indicated that the information is not true and is premised on rumors.
And a lot of things, honestly, that the Honourable Member has said are things that I'm not aware of. That is speculation. If that is true, if the investigative wings are working on this, let us know. But I don't receive the report of the investigation step by step. So, Honourable, when you talk of 4, I'm sure there will be witnesses to say there were 4 trucks. We saw them. Yeah, you may just offer yourself to give witness.
Meanwhile, Momba Member of Parliament Fred Chatila asked the Vice President when government intends to release the names of the 41 people whose bank accounts were last frozen by the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC.
People also, in as much as we are going through to ensure that these vices are curbed or stopped completely, we should also protect those who may be under investigation and be proved innocent. But if the name is already in public, it is not easy to clean up in this matter. I am sure the investigative wings, when they are sure of who, we will see what happens.
And Mandevu Member of Parliament Christopher Shakafuswe asked the Vice President why government has failed to provide relief to the victims of floods in Lusaka and Mandevu in particular.
We even have to wait, because even within Lusaka there are areas where we have given tents. So if your people are flooded, surely you sit there, because there has been no rain in the past 2 days. You have been sitting there. You can't say there is this area that has been.
The Vice President also indicated that her administration has no intention to backtrack on its decisions to give a foreign entity to undertake the Lusaka-NDOLA dual carriageway and later collect toll fees for 22 years after the completion of the project. Reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
The Road Safety Trust Programs Manager, Miles Mwale, says there is need for government to improve on law enforcement for motorists in order to help reduce the number of road traffic accidents recorded in the country. Mr. Mwale's call comes after the incident that occurred Thursday, 9th March 2023, where two pupils who were bashed by a speeding vehicle along Lusaka's Benbila Road near Chiwola compound died. He has since urged the law enforcers to stiffen the punishment for offenders so that it can be used as a deterrent for would-be offenders.
Despite the many police blocks on the road, the country has continued to record cases of reckless driving, driving under the influence and road traffic accidents. This has raised questions among stakeholders if the law enforcers who are the police are working accordingly. In reaction to the recent accident that happened on 9th March 2023, where 5 pupils were run over by an overspeeding vehicle, leaving 2 dead and 3 admitted to KANYAMA Hospital. Road Safety Trust's Programs Manager, Miles Mwale, says that government needs to improve on law enforcement for motorists in order to help reduce the number of road traffic accidents recorded in the country. He says that punishment on road traffic offenders should be stiffer in order to deter would-be offenders from committing similar crimes.
Appeal to the law enforcement agencies, especially the police who manage this traffic early in the morning, because it occurred in the morning when it was busy, and we understand that the motorists just bypassed those traffic officers, I think, who controls in the morning. So we needed to improve in terms of enforcement in this country. If we are not going to improve in terms of enforcement for motorists, and also maybe we feel that a lot of motorists, they behave in the way they behave because they easily get away with the fines that they are charged. So we would like to see like the revision in terms of fine that all traffic violators, I think they need to be heavily charged.
Mr. Mwale has also urged motorists to have courtesy for each other on the road, further urging the road traffic police to intensify alcohol consumption tests on road users.
It's important that motorists also respect other road users to ensure that we all work together and fight this national tragedy that we are experiencing. And especially that now we are already in the 3rd year of the decade of action, but so far what we are seeing, we are not going to reduce the road traffic crashes by the year 2030 by 50%, because it's like every day things we have a different story. But we don't see like a serious concern from the government, because this is very important, because these road traffic crashes occur and as individual events.
Sampa Mulenda reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
In other news, the Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested and charged former Kabushi Constituency Member of Parliament, Bowman Lusambo, for being in possession of a single-story 4-bedroom house reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime. ACC Head of Corporate Communications, Timothy Mono, says Mr. Lusambo has been charged with 1 count of being in possession of a property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime, contrary to the laws of Zambia. Details are that on dates unknown, but between 1st May 2015 and 31st December 2021, Mr. Lusambo jointly, whilst acting together with other persons unknown, did possess property number F609/E/44/B9 comprising of a single-story 4-bedroom house and a guest wing located in Chamba Valley, property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime. Mr. Lusambo has since been released on board and will appear in court soon. Meanwhile, ACC in Mongo has arrested and jointly charged Director for National School of Government Sineve Kabenja and Director of Finance Public Service Management Division PSMD Fides Montengwa for corruption involving 20,000 kwacha. Mr. Mono has named the two as 48-year-old Sineve Kabenja of Chalala area and 54-year-old Fides Kalangwa Montengwa of Lilai in Lusaka. He says the two have been jointly charged with 1 count of willful failure to follow applicable procedure or guidelines relating to procurement contrary to the laws of Zambia. In court, 5 opposition Patriotic Front office bearers have asked the Lusaka High Court to allow them joint proceedings in a case in which PF presidential aspirant Maus Sampa wants the court to order the Registrar of Societies to compel the party hold an extraordinary general conference as soon as possible. In an affidavit filed before court, the 5 office bearers, among them former PF Secretary General Davis Chama and Shuangandu Member of Parliament Stephen Kampyongo, says they are competent to join in the matter to avoid multiplicity of the action. In this matter, Mr. Sampa, who is also Material Member of Parliament, wants the court to order the General Conference to be held not less than 30 days after the court renders judgment in that lawsuit.
5 opposition Patriotic Front members who are said to be office bearers of the party have rushed to the Lusaka High Court and pleaded with the court for them to be allowed and be part of the civil lawsuit that PF aspirant presidential candidate Maus Sampa wants the court to order the Registrar of Societies to compel the party hold an extraordinary general conference as soon as possible. Davis Chama, Stephen Kampyongo, Monica Mwansa, Mwimba Malama and Ngonga Mukupa have submitted before court that they are office bearers of the party and were appointed by the Central Committee on the 7th of April 2021. In an affidavit in support of ex-party summons for an order for jointer, the 5 submit that they are directly connected to the case that Mr. Sampa sued the Registrar of Societies and the Attorney General, as the relief sought by Mr. Sampa borders on the internal operation of the party. They have submitted that they are competent to be joined to the proceedings in order to avoid multiplicity of action, further stating that no prejudice will be occasioned on Mr. Sampa if the court grants them the plea. In this matter, Mr. Sampa is also a Material Area Member of Parliament, wants the court to order that the General Conference be held not later than 30 days after the court renders its judgment in this lawsuit. He has cited the Registrar of Societies and the Attorney General as respondent respectively and wants the party to elect its president and 25 members of the Central Committee in line with its constitution. He also seeks an order that the PF's failure to hold an extraordinary convention initially scheduled for the end of last year and moving it to early this year abrogates his constitutional rights under the party. The PF aspirant presidential candidate further seeks an order that extraordinary conference be conducted at a venue which is easily accessible to all members, and such venue must be in Lusaka or Kawe to avoid unnecessary cost. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
For watching Camnet News, we take our first set of commercials. When we return, we have more interesting stories. Stay with us.
In our quest to save nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet television, not just another channel.
You're still watching Camnet News. Thank you so much for staying on. We continue. A 40-year-old general worker of Lusaka's Makeni area has admitted to defiling his stepdaughter aged 14. This is in a matter in which Stanislas Musonda is charged with defilement of a child. When the matter came up before the Lusaka Magistrate Court, Musonda admitted committing the offense between 15th of September 2021 and 17th of December 2022. When asked why he defiled the child, the accused said he was drunk. He told the court that he defiled the victim twice. It is believed that the victim, whose father died, is 21 weeks pregnant for the accused. Still in court, the Lusaka High Court has ruled that the Engineering Institute of Zambia President Ebo Chongo and 4 others were duly elected as leaders of the institution. In this case, Engineer Ngandu, Diana Kangwa, Sharon Musonda, Chizo Nyerenda and Jane Manasseh commenced judicial review proceedings against EIZ in the High Court over the annulment of their election as leaders of the institution by the Ethics and Integrity Committee. The court, in its ruling, has found that these decisions by EIZ Ethics and Integrity Committee to annul the entire election was illegal, unreasonable, and procedural inappropriate.
The High Court in Lusaka has ruled in favor of Engineer Abe Onkandu as being duly elected President of the Engineering Institution of Zambia. In 2022, Engineer Nkandu, alongside Diana Kangwa, Sharon Musonda, Chaza Nyerenda and Jane Manasseh, had commenced judicial review proceedings against the Engineering Institution of Zambia decision to revoke their election as leaders of the institution by the Ethics and Integrity Committee. The 5 had lamented before court that the move by the said committee to nullify their elections as leaders of the institution was illegal, as the same was not petitioned, neither were they given a chance to be heard. During hearing of the matter before court, the 5 had argued that no petition was filed against their election in accordance with the constitution of EIZ and election rules to warrant the nullification of the same. They had further prayed that if the court grants them leave to commence judicial review, it should operate as a stay of the committee's decision. Some of the reliefs, among others, were that the court quashed the decision made by the committee, which had seen a nullification of their elections that were held on the 23rd of April 2022. Now, in its ruling, the court finds the applicant to have been duly elected, thereby stating that the action by the committee was illegal, unreasonable, and procedurally impropriety. The court has also awarded the applicant costs to be taxed in default of agreement. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
In other news, Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has warned that no illegal mining in the country will be allowed from anyone. Speaking at the Youth Endeavor in Lusaka Friday, President Hichilema says his administration is in a fight against some youths who want to illegally conduct mining activities and that the law will catch up with them. The head of state says youths who wish to take part in mining should get mining licenses and that government will help them conduct exploration activities so that they can mine at the right spot. He says government will also train the youths who will acquire the mining licenses, support them with capital and connect them to the right market to sell their minerals. Meanwhile, Mr. Hichilema says government will this month be reopening the CONCESSIONAL gold mine and says local people will be part of those who benefit from the mine. We take our second set of commercials. When we return, we have sports and international news. Stay with us.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Welcome back. In international news, 54 people were rescued on Tuesday and Wednesday on two boats which sank off the coast of Tunisia, where 14 people died. The National Guard added that the migrants were from sub-Saharan Africa without disclosing their nationalities. People fleeing conflict or poverty, like using boats from their countries using the Mediterranean. Let's look at these international stories.
54 people were rescued when on Tuesday and Thursday, two boats sank off Tunisia's central Sfax region. 14 died, authorities said Thursday. The National Guard added that the migrants were sub-Saharan Africans, but didn't disclose their nationalities. People fleeing conflict or poverty take boats from Tunisian shores towards Europe, even though the central Mediterranean is the most dangerous migration route. When sub-Saharans came to Tunisia, it was because of the economic and social situation they were suffering in their countries. Their main objective is to cross to Europe, like our Tunisian youth who dream of a better life. They don't want to let us go. If it's like that, let us go back to Italy. We have neither father nor mother. If that's the way it is, let us go back. Tunisian authorities have stepped up arrests of Africans without residency papers in recent weeks after the president linked migrants to crimes. The comments fanned a surge in attacks against black Africans. In January, Italy's top diplomat reiterated to his Tunisian counterpart Rome's aim to reduce irregular immigration. The 5th United Nations Conference of the Least Developed Countries ended in Doha Thursday. Just $1.4 billion in new loans and grants were promised, whereas UN's chief had appealed for massive aid. Qatar's permanent representative to the UN detailed her country's contribution.
At the opening of the plenary of the conference, His Highness, the Emir of the State of Qatar, and the President of the conference underscored the firm commitment of the State of Qatar to supporting the development process of the least developed countries, announcing a financial contribution of a total of $60 million, of which $10 million will be allocated for supporting the implementation of the activities of the Doha Programme of Action for the least developed countries, and $50 million will be allocated for supporting the deliverables of the Doha Programme of Action and building resilience in the least developed countries.
The UN's deputy chief said least developed economies needed a new impulse to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals SDG by 2030.
SDG performance is low, below the global average. Risks are growing rather than diminishing, and 11 least developed countries spend over 1/5 of their revenue servicing debt. We need a new approach, and the Doha Programme of Action responds to these unprecedented and interlinked challenges with a blueprint for recovery, for renewal, and for resilience.
46 countries with 33 in Africa are listed by the UN among the least developed economies. The 5-day summit is usually held every decade.
Here, in this waiting hall of Remera Health Center in Kigali, Rwanda's capital, many women are waiting to see a doctor. In particular, they are here to be screened for cervical cancer, the most common cancer among women in Rwanda, affecting 42 out of every 100,000 individuals.
This is the first time I've been tested for this disease. I didn't even know there's a test. Once I got here, they taught me how to do the self-sampling.
In 2020, Rwanda decided to test a new device that treats precancerous lesions with heat and can be used in countries with limited access to advanced medical equipment or facilities.
In the past, we used to use a big machine that ran on gas and was very expensive. Some hospitals even found it difficult to get the machine. But with a thermal ablation method, it is easier because it is very light and you're more mobile.
This treatment is now a central part of the fight against cervical cancer, especially in rural areas where many women dread getting screened due to the fear and stigma surrounding the disease.
On the day of the operation, I didn't feel any horrible pain. So much so that it encouraged me to tell my friends to go and get tested. It was a bearable pain. I spent just 30 minutes in the operating room and then everything went back to normal.
According to the World Health Organization, WHO, 940 women died of uterine cancer in Rwanda in 2019.
In a country like Rwanda, which set vaccination as a priority, 90% of young girls are now vaccinated. We can hope that in a few years, there will be far fewer cases of cervical cancer. Unfortunately, we are not there yet, because women who are 40 or 40 years old have not been vaccinated.
Health workers are hoping that technological advances will generally lead to better cancer diagnosis.
We now look at sports news. The Chess Federation of Zambia President Leslie Chikose this morning, 10th of March 2023, officially opened the first ever Zambia's Women's Chess Championship, an international tournament in Lusaka. Speaking during the opening ceremony, Mr. Chikose emphasized that the tournament was created because of the great performance that the women are portraying for Zambia by bringing medals to the country. He further says the Chess Federation of Zambia takes great importance of women in sports with the inclusiveness of everybody. He adds that the chess has attributes that can help one achieve certain goals at certain levels, such as patience, timekeeping, and calculation, as well as discipline. Let's look at this.
Zambia Chess Federation has held Women's Chess Championship in Lusaka, 10th March 2023. Speaking during the opening ceremony of the tournament, Zambia Chess Federation President Leslie Chikose says the tournament was created because of the great performance that the women are portraying for Zambia by bringing medals to the country. Mr. Chikose further says the Chess Federation of Zambia takes great importance to women in sport, hence holding such tournaments. He adds that chess has the attributes to help one to achieve certain goals at certain levels, such as patience, timekeeping, calculation, and as well as discipline.
To Mother Zambia, and this tournament is their tournament. We are celebrating with them, of course, in the month of the Women, International Women's Day. Now, Chess Federation of Zambia takes great importance to women in sport and the inclusiveness of everybody when it comes to running of chess, because of the great attributes that chess has, the attributes that can help a person, a human being, a woman, to be able to achieve and attain certain goals at certain levels because of the great attributes that include attributes of patience, attributes of timekeeping, attributes of calculations, attributes of discipline. These attributes, when put together.
Meanwhile, Mr. Chikusi says Zambia was the first country in Sub-Sahara to produce the first ever Grand Master in Sub-Sahara in the name of Grandmaster Amon Simtowe.
Zambia was the first country in Sub-Sahara to produce the first ever Grandmaster in Sub-Sahara in the name of Grandmaster Amon Simtowe. And therefore, we are still the mother of chess in Africa.
Jabulani Chilwa, Camnet News, Lusaka.
But that's where we wrap it up this evening. The headlines once again. The opposition political party leaders arrested for protesting against the concessional contract of the Lusaka-NDOLA dual carriageway. President Hakainde Hichilema warns youths against illegal mining. Vandalized water kiosk in Lusaka's KANYAMA Ward 13 widens the water challenge gap for over 100 families. In international news, 14 dead, 54 rescued off Tunisia's east coast and migrant boat sinking. And in sports news, first ever Zambian Open International Women's Chess Championship kick-starts in Lusaka. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, and it's coming from Acts 2:36, and it reads, God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Christ. Thank you so much for watching Camnet TV. My name is Sharon Kalimbola. Good night.